I'm back, and I'm doing something that I wanted to do for quite some time. I want to relate to my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, or even great-great-grandchildren, something about me, so that you know, not just a name, but you know who I am. This in no way is meant to be an autobiography or anything that's done professional. You'll see that it's very unprofessional if you look at it. And I pray that the memories I have might be a benefit to some of you. Our family is growing quite large, and sometimes it's hard to keep everybody straight and know what I've told so and so, and so I hope you'll bear with me and let me tell the thoughts as they come to my mind. Last night as I went to bed, I felt very tired, but I couldn't get to sleep. And I knew I needed to get up early this morning so we could go visiting teaching with Debbie. I was filling in for Tammy. And it seemed like my head was just so full of so many memories that I even forgot about myself. And they came so fast that I would not have been able to write them down as fast as they came to me. But hopefully I'll be able to remember some, and more important to me, I want you to know the real me. I'm sure not an angel, but I'm a pretty good person, I think, and I try hard to follow our Savior's teachings and what we need to do to get back to Him. This is another day of taping, so my memory isn't as good as it used to be, so I hope I don't repeat any of the stories, and that if I do, you can just skip over it or bear with me. I was married in July of 1948, but my first son wasn't born until 52. That was Ray Jr. And then I had Mike a year and a half later, and then I had Debbie a year after Mike was born. And then there was a little rest period in there that all three of the older kids was born in California. And Tammy and Brett was born in Orem, Utah. But we lived in California for, I think it was, after I was married, I think it was 8 years. And we had a fun life there. We never had been rich, and we made up and fun for our family and trying to do fun things for them. And before I had any children, I used to pick up Flo's oldest son, Bill, and I used to take him to the beach with me. I had this old Model A, that's what I drove, and he loved for me to push the gas pedal up and down so the car was jerky. He would tell me to drive it hard, but he was so good, and we'd go and spend the whole day at the beach, and that was an enjoyment for me and for him, I think. I'm going to skip to when we moved to Utah. 3 kids were in school, and Brett and Tammy wasn't born yet. That was a little later. And boy, we had fun as a family. We did so many things, and all of them had to be free, one way or the other. But when we moved to California, we rented Lou and Lamont's home because they had built a home, a little bigger home for them and their family. And we were kind of squished up in their house because they only had a 2-bedroom house. So we had to put all the kids in one bedroom, and then Ray and I had the other. And then Ray's dad come to live with us for several months. And Lou and Lamont's house had a screened-in porch, and it was like a room almost. And when Grandpa come to live with us, why, I told him we could put him on the couch, and he says, no, if it's all the same to you, I want to have my room right out there. He says, I like to look at the stars at night, and he says, that would be just perfect for me. And so that's where he slept until it got too cold and he had to move inside. Grandma stayed behind because they were selling their house there, and somebody needed to be there to take care of business for them. And but we enjoyed Grandpa, and the kids enjoyed him. And he was a very, very nice person to be around, as was Grandma. Just a few months after we lived in Lamont and Lou's house, the same builder that built Lamont Lou's house built Ace and Karen one right next door to each other. And Lamont negotiated with the man that owned the property and see if he would let us build Ray and I a house. We had no money to put down or anything, so we asked him if we got a construction loan, which they gave you enough to build your house and pay for the property. And he was very willing to do this, which it thrilled us because we could have a little bigger house and more room for the kids. I think it took about 6 months for them to complete the house for us to move in. And the kids would sit across the room from each other and say, "Can you hear me over there?" Because our other house was so small, they felt this was so big. But it really wasn't that big, but to them it was. And whatever they got enjoyment out of and wasn't hurting themselves, they, of course, would do. The 3 kids went to school over there, and Brett, at the time we moved in our house, got to go to kindergarten, and Tammy was still just a baby. Debbie just loved her baby sister. She took her everywhere she went, and when she was just a baby, and I mean a baby, like coming home from the hospital, baby, we had the crib in Debbie's room so the 2 girls could be together, and Debbie used to ask if the baby couldn't sleep with her in her bed. And I said, no, I don't think that's a good idea because you know, when you're asleep, you move around a lot, and I thought maybe you might roll over and be on top of her and she'd suffocate or something. I was always a little bit overprotective of my kids, I guess. And but me telling her that she couldn't have the baby in bed with her after lights went out and everybody was in their beds, Debbie would sneak over and take Tammy out of her crib and put her in bed with her. So whenever I'd go to check on the kids sometimes in the middle of the night to make sure everything was all right, and that's when I found out what Debbie was doing. But she even changed Tammy's diapers and would get up and heat her formula for her, and just was really helpful in the daytime when she was awake. I think she played like that Tammy was her baby or doll or something, I don't know. But I do know she took very good care of her. I know she loved her dearly, and I know she loved to take her with her wherever she went. That's pretty nice. And there's 6 years between them, and so it wasn't like that they, was real close. In fact, most kids would probably think if you took a baby brother or sister that it would be you wouldn't like to do it, and but Debbie always did. And we had one corner we had a corner lot for our house, and on the other corner was owned by Mr. Moggs, and the kids always called it Moggs Hill or Hogg's Place or whatever. But anyway, he had some dirt that was piled up, not too high, it wasn't too big, but the kids act like it was Mount Everest or something. They was always going to go over and climb Moggs Field, and they act like it was just so big and wondered if they could get to the top. Of course they could, because it wasn't all that big. And they played there a lot. Brett never wanted to go to school. He fought it tooth and nail even from kindergarten. I took him down, and because in Orem, the little kindergarten room, they had fixed up so cute, and they had like one side of the room where they had the boy toys, and then on the other side would be the girls' toys. And of course they had their little desk when they were learning things. But Brett said, no, I just soon play with my trucks at home. And I says, oh, but Russell and Scott are going to be there. Don't you want to go with them? He says, no, I'll wait till they get home and play with them. Brett was a child that could play very well by himself and very well with other kids if they were around. But he seemed to be able to entertain his own self if he had to.